Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine when you see a clown? A creeping sense of unease behind the painted smile and exaggerated features? Tonight we delve into the eerie world of clowns, where laughter turns to screams. We'll uncover 3 true stories that expose the darkness lurking beneath the surface, the nightmares hidden behind the carnival lights. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare to face your fears. Did you ever sneak out as a kid? That heart-pounding thrill of being somewhere you shouldn't be? Imagine this: a crisp autumn night, the air thick with the scent of fallen leaves and distant bonfires. 2 teenagers, let's call them Sam and Lisa, decided to take a shortcut home through the abandoned fairgrounds on the edge of town. The Ferris wheel stood like a skeletal giant against the moonlit sky, its empty carriages creaking softly in the breeze. They could almost hear the echoes of laughter, smell the sugary scent of cotton candy, feel the phantom vibrations of the rides. As they walked deeper into the shadows, a strange sound reached them. A faint tune, melancholic and haunting, played on a distant calliope. They followed the sound, their curiosity outweighing their better judgment, until they reached a clearing. And that's when they saw it: a single brightly lit tent, its canvas rippling gently in the wind. The name above the entrance, barely visible in the flickering light, sent shivers down their spines. The House of Mirth. "This feels wrong," Lisa whispered, pulling at Sam's arm. But Sam, emboldened by a foolish sense of bravado, shrugged her off. "Relax," he chuckled. "It's probably just some kids messing around." He pulled back the tent flap and they stepped inside. The air inside was thick with the smell of dust and decay, heavy with an almost palpable silence. A single spotlight illuminated a small stage in the center of the tent, and then a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a clown, tall and gaunt, its costume faded and tattered. Its face was painted in an exaggerated grin that didn't quite reach its eyes. The eyes. Lisa couldn't tear her gaze away from them. They were cold, empty, like 2 black pits staring right through her. The clown began to move, its limbs jerking in a grotesque parody of a dance. The calliope music resumed, its cheerful tune now distorted and sinister. Sam and Lisa exchanged a terrified look. Something was deeply, terribly wrong. The clown's movements became more frantic, its painted smile wider, more menacing. It reached out a white-gloved hand towards them, its voice a raspy whisper that seemed to slither through the air. "Don't you want to play?" Lisa was frozen in fear, but Sam, finally snapping out of his bravado, grabbed her hand. They turned to run, their blood turning to ice as they heard the clown's chilling laughter echo behind them. They didn't stop running, not until they reached the familiar streetlights of their neighborhood. Breathless and terrified, they vowed never to speak of that night again. But the memory lingered, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath even the most innocent of disguises. Years later, Lisa stumbled upon an old newspaper article. A traveling circus, plagued by tragedy, had been forced to shut down after a fire consumed their tents. The fire had claimed the life of one of their performers, a clown. The accompanying sketch, though faded with time, sent a fresh wave of terror through Lisa. It was him, the clown from the abandoned fairgrounds, the clown from her nightmares. This story takes us to the rusted heart of an abandoned theme park, a place where childhood dreams lay rotting in the sun. Picture this: peeling paint, overgrown weeds twisting around defunct roller coasters, and a silence so profound it hums in your ears. The park had been closed for decades, its rusted gates a grim testament to forgotten joys and faded laughter. But local legend whispered of a lone inhabitant, a specter that haunted the derelict grounds. They called him Patches. A group of college friends, eager for a thrill, decided to spend a night in the abandoned park. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they were convinced they were too smart to be fazed by old ghost stories. They explored the crumbling remains of the park, their laughter echoing through the empty arcade. As night fell, a thick fog rolled in. blanketing the park in an eerie silence. They reached the entrance of the park's main attraction, a whimsical funhouse with a giant grinning clown face. The paint was peeling, the clown's smile twisted into a grotesque sneer. One of the friends, a cocky young man named Jake, picked up a rock and hurled it at the clown's face. "Hey, Patches!" he yelled. "Come out and play!" The group laughed nervously, their bravado a thin veil over their growing fear. They entered the funhouse, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The air inside was heavy with the smell of mildew and decay. As they moved deeper, the air grew colder, and they could hear the faint sound of giggling. Soft, childish laughter that seemed to come from all around them. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a sight that stopped their hearts. Standing at the end of a hallway of distorted mirrors was a figure in a tattered clown costume. Its face was hidden in the shadows, but they could see the glint of its eyes, 2 points of cold, malevolent light. The figure began to move towards them, its movements slow and deliberate. Panic surged through the group. They turned to run, but the funhouse seemed to twist and turn around them. They were lost, trapped in a labyrinth of mirrors and shadows. The giggling grew louder, echoing around them, driving them to the edge of madness. The flashlight beams flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Screams pierced the night as the friends were picked off one by one. Only Jake was left, cowering in a corner, his eyes wide with terror. He could hear the heavy footsteps of the clown approaching, each step sending shivers down his spine. Our final tale takes us across the ocean to the small town of Brearley Hill in England, where a wave of terror gripped the community in 2013. It wasn't a monster in the shadows or a creature from the deep that terrified the residents. It was something far more unsettling. Something that lurked in broad daylight, its true nature hidden behind a painted smile. For weeks, the residents of Brearley Hill reported seeing a lone figure wandering the streets. A clown. Not the cheerful, goofy kind you'd expect at a child's birthday party. This clown was different. It wore a tattered, stained costume, its face painted in a grotesque, exaggerated grin. Its eyes were hidden in the shadows of its oversized wig, but those who saw it spoke of a chilling intensity, a sense of something cold and calculating behind the painted facade. At first, it was just sightings. The clown standing silently on street corners, watching children play in the park, peering into shop windows. No one approached it. No one dared to. The sightings became more frequent, more brazen. The clown began to appear closer to homes, staring through windows, its painted smile a haunting image that lingered long after it was gone. The police were called, but the clown, if it saw them, always vanished before they arrived. The town held its breath, gripped by a collective unease. Who was this clown? What did it want? The answer, when it finally came, was far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. One evening, a young woman named Sarah was walking home alone. The streets were deserted, the only sound the click of her heels on the pavement. As she rounded a corner, she saw it. The clown. It was standing under a streetlight, its painted grin illuminated in the harsh glare. Sarah froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The clown took a step towards her, and then another. Sarah turned and ran, the sound of her own footsteps echoing in the silence. She risked a glance over her shoulder. The clown was gone. Relieved, Sarah slowed to a walk. She was almost home. As she reached for her keys, she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around. It was the clown. Its face was inches from hers, the painted grin twisted into a grotesque sneer. Sarah screamed, a primal scream of pure terror. The clown lunged at her, its cold, clammy hands reaching for her throat. Sarah fought back, kicking and scratching, her screams echoing through the empty streets. A neighbor, hearing the commotion, looked out her window. She saw the struggle, saw the terrifying figure of the clown, and immediately called the police. But it was too late. By the time the police arrived, the clown was gone. And so was Sarah. The town of Briarley Hill was never the same. The clown was never caught, its motives never understood. 3 stories, 3 chilling encounters with the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. We've explored the unsettling world of clowns, where laughter turns to screams, and the line between amusement and terror blurs. So the next time you see a clown, remember these tales? Remember the shadows that lingered behind the painted smiles, the fear that echoed long after the laughter faded.